Hello and welcome to our tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to look at triggering. So what I've introduced here is in my kind of game level is a door, or well, it's a red sprite to represent a door. So I was going to press play here, and you'll see full screen. There's my wonderful sound effects. Okay, so I walk forward. I have triggered the door opening. It opens. I can proceed. I am very tempted to turn off that. Thank you. Now, how does that work? So, let's have a look at the mechanics of it, and then we'll just build it. So I'm going to move this forward here and press play again. And move a tiny bit forward, and there's the door opening. I'm going to take my trigger here, and I'm going to put it behind my character and press play. And now I can walk all I want. I've hit a dead end. I cannot open the door. I cannot proceed. If I walk back this way, and then I walk back this way. So I have collided with an object, and it has opened the door. So there's my trigger. So let's see how we set that up. So I'm going to delete the trigger and delete the door in the game. I'm going to delete both of them and just build it from scratch. Okay, so I have a sprite here. It is a delightfully complicated tiny image. It's a PNG file. I don't even know how big it is. It's 34 by 237, so non-standard, strange size door. So I'm going to drag that in here and delete these so we can start from scratch. So there's my door. Let's zoom in, see where it's landed. There it is there at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to use my move tool and bring it down here to somewhere practical. I'm going to press F, focus in on what we're doing, and where go my mouse? There it goes. Okay, so we'll just center up here. So I'm going to select my red door, go to scale, and just make sure it's big enough and move it into approximately the right position. So it's just a sprite, it has no collision. So I'm going to add physics 2D, a box collider. And now we have a box collider. If I turn off the renderer, you can see the collider around it. So if I press play here, my character should be stopped by this object because it's got a collider. Okay. And it's on order and layer 0, so I might make that 1, just so it's always in front of the background layer, which has 0. Okay. Now, that's fine. So that's my door. Now I want to add 2 animations to it. So I'm going to go to my animation window. I'm going to go create and go to my animations, and I'm going to call this door closed. And I'm just going to alter the position of that slightly so I have a keyframe. So that's it not moving. And then I'm going to create a new animation, and I'm going to call this door open. And again, I'm going to I'll go from 3 point. So same value. I'll go to say 0.4 here, and we will move this down below. So I can just see the top of it here, but it's below the collider, the other collider, which is the ground collider. And I'll give it a frame rate of, say, 18. We can make it fast chunk, and obviously I can put a sound effect in with this. Okay, so there are my 2 animations. Now, Unity has created a red door animator. So here are my 2 animations. So I didn't ask it to make that, it made it automatically. And we'll get to that in a minute. And I have my 2 animations here. I'm just going to turn off loop I don't want the door to open and then suddenly be shut again and then reopen and then suddenly be shut and reopen. So I just want it to play once, the animation. So I'm going to turn off loop. I could actually leave the loop on for closed because it just doesn't move. But just good practice to turn off loop unless you have a particular, it's going on a circular journey or something, like a platform or something. Okay, so I have my red door set up. It has a controller, which is called red door. We have two animations, and I'm just going to set up the relationship with the animation. So I'm going to make a state. I'm going to call this open, and I'm going to make this my default state. I'm going to make a transition. Oh no, I want to make this my default state, so it's closed, and make a transition to open. And on this transition here, I'm going to say if open is equal to 1. So I have a state called open, capital O. So here's my door closed. If I change my state to equal to 1, play this animation, door open. Okay. So now I need a trigger. So I'm going to take my red door and bring it in again. And we'll call this red door trigger. And again, if we zoom out, we'll find it's at the origin, and we can move it over here, move it down. Now, I'm just going to move it here so I can see it. I'm going to make it much smaller. How small is kind of irrelevant. Not too small. And depending on what type of character I have, I could maybe, if I had a small character, this would have to be low to the ground. This character is, tall enough. I may want it so that I could jump over this trigger. I could maybe avoid it. If I don't want to ever avoid it, I can make it, full screen basically. So we'll leave it that big for now, and we'll place it behind the character. Place it here. And in our order of layers, we can place it anywhere we want, because we're going to turn this sort of stuff off in a minute, because we're going to actually make it invisible. So I'm going to add a 2D box collider, and then we're going to turn this on here, is trigger. Now, is trigger means that the collider, so the box collider registers collision. So it will, if the character collides with this object, Unity will note that collision. So it has happened. There has been collision. But the character can pass through. So this is like a ghost object. So the character will collide with it, but there will be no physical ramifications of that. So the physics of the character, the trajectory, the velocity of the character, nothing changes. So this is basically a ghost object. So I pass through it, but the collision with it is registered, and I can use that collision to trigger an event. So how do I do that? Well, I have amended the player movement script. So let's go have a look at that in our wonderful. Now I'm going to go zoom in, and I have explained to you before, I think, that I'm using a trackball. The trackball doesn't have blah blah blah. Anyway, there we go. So first of all, I have to declare a variable game object as the door. Now I have to do that because this is the player. So when the player hits the trigger, not the door, when it hits the trigger, it's going to send a message, and the message it's going to send is to the door. So I'm going to bump into the trigger. I'm not sending a message to the trigger, I'm sending a message to the door. Now, and the message will say player animation. So we've used this before on collision enter 2D. So now I want you to use this. So this is on trigger enter 2D. Now it says other collider 2D. This is me, and this is the object I hit. I could call this door, and then door. But because I'm using door here, that's confusing. So I could call this, I don't know, it's called other, but it could be called anything, as long as this word and this word correspond. So I could call it Noel and Noel. So if the other object I hit has the tag door, now let's change that. Let's call that trigger, or we'll call it door trigger. Okay, so if I hit an object tagged door trigger, then send a message open to the door, and the door is a game object that we've put in as a variable. So door trigger, file, save. Go back into Unity, and I'm going to select my door trigger here. And now it's untagged. I need to create a tag. Now I'd already created one called door, but I'm going to add a new one. So I'm going to go plus here, and we'll call this door trigger. Okay, and then go back here and then tag it door trigger. So when my player collides with an object with the tag door trigger, send a message to the object door, and the subject of the message is open. Okay, so this is going to do its job now. It has the tag, so I can turn that invisible, so it doesn't interfere with my gameplay. Now my door is going to receive a message saying open, so I need a script, my open door script. So let's go here, and this is my open door script. So the first thing I need to do is load in my animator. And the animator is obviously the controller for the animation, so it has the information in it that says if I have a state of 1, then open the door or play the animation. So this is the state. So let's just double check that we have that correct. So it's called open with a capital O. So set integer open to 1, and we've said in Unity here, if this parameter open is set to 1, then play this transition. Okay, so that's it. So, and this is the function open. This is the message I'm receiving. So I'm receiving it, and I'm going to execute this function, and the function says play the animation. So let's take that script. There's my door. It doesn't have the script on it yet, so we'll place the open door script onto my door. Now you can see the animator hasn't appeared, and as before, if I try and drag and drop it, it won't work, so I need to click on this little circle and select red door. So now it's got its animator set up. So let's just check. We've placed this here, so let's place this behind the character so we can see this working for real. Oops. Now I'm going to turn off maximize on play so we can see this visibly here. So there's my character. I move forward. I cannot get through the door, so I move back here. I can't get through the door. So when I collide with this, it has not worked. So why is that? So let's see, what have I done incorrectly? You probably have it worked out already. So I call this door trigger, and I go to my character movement or player movement script. Oh, I probably haven't assigned the variable. Okay, so let's go back to my player. Oh yeah, and I have a variable unassigned. So I haven't told the script, so I haven't told it what to send the message or who to send the message to. So it's the door. So there we go. So let's try that again. So we'll select the door trigger here so we can see it, and let's play. So let's double check. I can't get through here. And touch the door trigger. There we go. Animation is triggered. and now I can walk by. And it hasn't come back up, so it hasn't looped the animation. So that is triggering. If I wanted to close the door, I could put another trigger on this side that closed the door after I walked through it. So to play another animation that closed it, and then I couldn't access this anymore, so I would then be stuck on this side of the door. So there's a zillion permutations of what you can do with this set of tools. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and we're going to be doing this in class.